60theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Did you watch it? Good morning. Amy Jacobson here. John Anthony, the director of the FBI, in the hot seat on the Hill yesterday. And he did his, bobbing and weaving, dancing around questions. But I loved when Jim Jordan asked him about the Catholics. And certain Catholics are domestic extremists.
What's the difference between a traditional Catholic and a radical traditional Catholic?
I'm not an expert on the Catholic orders.
Well, your FBI wrote a memo talking about radical traditional Catholics. I'm just wondering if you can define it for us.
Well, what I can tell you is you're referring to the Richmond product, which was a single product by a single field office, which as soon as I found out about it, I was aghast and ordered it withdrawn and removed from FBI systems.
You were aghast, then why won't you let us talk to the people who put it together?
We are working on finishing an internal review into what happened there.
We have to wait. We, the Congress, and the American people have to wait until you do an internal review. It's not a criminal investigation going on here. An internal review before we can talk to the people who wrote this?
When we finish our internal review, which will be very soon, we will come back before the committee
in America?
and provide a briefing on what we found.
Well, we appreciate the briefing, but we want to talk to the people who wrote it. Any idea how many Catholics there are in America, Director?
No, sir.
There's a lot, over 60 million. What percentage of those are radical traditional Catholics, according to the Richmond Field Office of the FBI?
Again, that product is not something that I will defend or excuse. It's something that I thought was appalling and removed it.
Let's read from that product, page 4 of that product. By the way, the copy you gave us, when can we get a copy that didn't have all these redactions on it so we can actually see what the American taxpayers were paying for to see their rights, their First Amendment religious liberty rights attacked? Let me just read from page 4. Provide new opportunities to mitigate extremist threat through outreach to traditional Catholic parishes and the development of sources with the placement and access to report on places of worship. That's pretty fancy language for they're trying to put informants in the parish, in the church. That's what this memorandum said, Director, from one of your field offices.
So how did Ray do, and did we get anywhere? Did you learn anything, John Anthony?
Yeah,
from watching.
Christopher Wray is a, what? I can't say it.
Well, I mean, he's lying under oath.
Yes.
He said there's a number of things. So when they asked him about Mark Hawk's home being raided, he's a pro-life gentleman who was with his son, at a protest. And the FBI raided his house, guns drawn. He has no criminal history. He has no ties to terrorism. Local police couldn't charge him with anything.
Is that the guy
FBI comes over the top and charges with something? He had a jury trial, and he was acquitted within 30 minutes.
But is that the guy that said he was going to turn himself in, and they still came in?
Yeah.
Guns
but he
drawn?
shouldn't have had. I mean, he was at a pro-life rally, outside an abortion clinic, and he was with his son. And I mean, that's just an overreach of government.
It is.
On social media causes, so does the FBI get involved in massive effort to suppress information and communication? No, we all know about the Twitter files.
Yeah.
Do we not? We all know about it.
Matt Taibbi.
His response, absolutely not, says Ray. That's ludicrous. We're not in the business of suppression, but the FBI and a judge confirmed that the FBI suppressed millions of citizens' communications around election time of all times, because timing's everything. Here's that exchange.
Director Wray, I find it stunning. You made no mention of this court opinion either in your opening statement today or in this lengthy 14-page report that you prepared on July 12th, which is 8 days after the court ruling. Have you read the ruling, sir?
I am familiar with the ruling, and I've reviewed it with our Office of General Counsel.
Are you deeply disturbed by what they've told you about the ruling if you haven't read it yourself?
Obviously, we're going to comply with the court's order, the court's preliminary injunction. We sent out guidance to the field and the headquarters about how to do that. Needless to say, the injunction itself is a subject of ongoing litigation, and so I'll decline to comment further on it.
Well, let me tell you what the court concluded, because it should be the first thing you think about every morning and the last thing you think about at night. They said that, quote, the court found Apparently, the FBI engaged in a massive effort to suppress disfavored conservative speech and blatantly ignored the First Amendment's right to free speech.
With more on this, let's welcome to the program Dan Schneider. He's vice president of MRC Free Speech America. And he knows a lot about the Twitter files and how, big tech government censored our campaign. Good morning, Mr. Schneider. How are you?
Amy, it's great to be with you.
Yeah. So what did you take away from yesterday's hearing? Did you learn anything? Were you frustrated by this?
Well, of course, I was expecting Christopher Wray to do exactly what he did, which was be pompous and arrogant and dismissive of the Republicans. But here's something that I noticed. Christopher Wray was very well prepared and knew his facts and responded fully every time a Democrat asked him a question.
Yep.
He was also prepared when Republicans asked him questions to say, I don't know, or let me get back to you on that, or, well, that was in our filings, and I don't want to say something that's been consistent with our filings. He was so well prepared with specificity every time a Democrat asked him a question. And he was also prepared to try to be flippant toward Republicans. I heard him more than once tell Republican members of Congress, well, we've got lots of people in your state who are applying for jobs at the FBI, trying to dismiss Republicans. He was really well prepared to be a Democrat and defend the Democrat narrative, unprepared to give real answers to the American public about the problems with the FBI.
Well, Twitter owner Elon Musk, he shocked the internet when he released those secret internal documents to certain reporters, who uncovered how the FBI and other government agencies censored Twitter. Even, the most famous cases, I'm taking down the New York Post story on Hunter Biden's laptop. What other things did they do? What other cover-ups were made or orchestrated?
Well, of course, there are two sides to this. One is withholding information from the American public, and the other was creating a false story. So they created a false story about President Trump, being a Russian agent. They helped foster that and flame that story. They were active participants in it. And the fact that the FBI director will not admit what the FBI had done. Instead, all he would say is, well, I wasn't the director at that time. Okay, great. You weren't the director at that time when the FBI was creating this false story. Well, what are you doing as the FBI director to fix this? And he would refuse to answer that. But then when it comes to the Hunter Biden laptop story, real information that the public needed to have. And we, by the way, Amy, we at the Media Research Center did a poll, a survey, right after the 2020 elections, asking Biden voters if they had heard about the Hunter Biden laptop story. 49%, over 49%, almost half of all Biden voters had never even heard of the Hunter Biden laptop story. And 9.4% of those Biden voters, when surveyed, said that had they known about it, they would not have voted for Joe Biden.
Of course.
The FBI and the DOJ were active participants in suppressing that information so they could defeat Donald Trump.
Wow.
Yet Christopher Wray refused to answer any questions about the FBI's culpability and if he's doing anything to fix it. All he would say is, well, I'm not going to second guess my troops in the field. These guys carrying guns who threaten people, and all he would say is, well, we never actually forced these social media companies to do it, which of course is a joke. The federal district court judge specifically found that the FBI was coercing social media companies to censor speech.
Wow. Mr. Schneider, when I look at this, and I was waiting to hear something about January 6th, and here's why it's personal to me. One of my best friends is locked up there, Cashley Kelly. I say his name every time I can. 1,000 people have now been caught up in this dragnet, right? And when you look at the questions pertaining to, was the FBI involved in any way? Because if the FBI allowed any of those people into the Capitol, it allowed any of those people, incited them to go into the Capitol, they're at fault. And I don't see how these people can be charged. What say you about that?
Well, John, you've just pointed out a great moment here that confirms what I just said. when Democrats asked Wray about January 6th, he was well prepared. He knew the questions they were going to ask, and he had answers prepared for them. When Republicans asked about January 6th and whether there were any, operatives or paid informants or human sources with the FBI on the grounds at the Capitol, he refused to answer. He refused to answer any of those questions, and he would simply say, "Well, we'll have to get back to you on that. I'm not sure what you mean by agent. I'm not sure what you mean by this. I'm not sure what you mean by that." He refused to answer. And now, were there people on the Capitol grounds that illegally entered the Capitol? Yes, there were. Were they incited to do so by FBI informants? Christopher Wray refused to answer that. By entering the Capitol, unlawfully, were they trying to overthrow the U.S. government? Preposterous claim. But Christopher Wray would not answer any of those questions.
And he wouldn't even ask if there were covert agents used during the January 6th alleged insurrection.
Yeah, but he was prepared when Democrats asked him questions to say, "Oh, well, this is these accusations are absurd." Yeah. But he would not answer any of the Republicans' examinations.
And you know what, Mr. Schneider? Let's take this back. January 2017. I personally think this was the clarion call to the intelligence agencies to start what they're doing now. Chuck Schumer. This was his, and I quote, "Let me tell you, you take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you." Chuck U. Schumer said that back in 2017. I mean, where is the accountability for? Is there a connection? Is there a nexus between what he said, what Barack Obama? I mean, when you look at all this, it all stems back to the Barack Obama presidency, knowing about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. He knew all of this. Where's the accountability?
China, Romania,
where is the
Russia?
Accountability?
Yeah, well, John, again, you're exactly right. Barack Obama as president and Joe Biden as vice president were both specifically briefed on how Hillary Clinton was going to manufacture this fake story about Donald Trump being a Russian agent as part of her political campaign. They did nothing about it. They allowed the FBI, the DOJ, the intelligence community to create this coup against the American public and against the Constitution. They supported it, and they lost. And they were really, really angry about losing that 2016 election, and they've been working to get even ever since. The intelligence community has run amok. It's using its power, its resources to attack the Constitution and the American public. It's outrageous.
And I'm a man of common sense. I like to reason things out. I like to look at things constructively and think about this. And I've said this on my show before. Imagine being President Trump, knowing that the federal government and its full weight came against you in so many areas. Russia, Ukraine, the 2 impeachments.
James Comey went to visit him at the Trump Tower to let him know that there was an investigation.
Right. And the point is, people who don't understand Trump's anger, I would be angry too, but like he said, they're not after me. They're after you. If they can do what they're doing to the President of the United States of America and now candidate Trump, what do you think they can do to us? And I think that's where people need to start rising up and saying, we will not take any more from this government. Am I right or am I wrong, Mr. Schneider?
You're right. And please call me Dan.
Oh, well, I'm a former cop, so it's ingrained in me. I apologize, Dan.
Well,
John,
John,
said his name.
The American public has the responsibility to participate in this democratic system of government. Our republic requires an informed citizenry to run our government. Yeah. So all of your listeners, we're the ones with the responsibility to take back our country. We're the ones that the founder said, you're the last stop of freedom. We have got to choose to fight back. We cannot let our institutions of government be used against our freedom.
Yeah, and Dan, I also think because they control the vocabulary, the language. I went back and I read how some of the founding fathers spoke as it related to understanding freedom and beating back tyranny. If we said those things today, we would be locked up. The FBI will be coming after us. I mean, because, the Tree of Liberty, we can't say those type of things today. But it's and I'm not one of violence. I'm a very mild-mannered person. But I think what the government wants, they want us to act out of character. And this is why I believe they're doing what they're doing. But the people need to rise up, because never forget, it's we the people, not we the government. It's we the people. And I just want so many more people to really understand what's actually happening to our country and to us as the people. Sorry, that's my soapbox for the day.
Well, John, amen. Amen. That courageous federal district court judge who has ordered the Biden administration to stop coercing and colluding with big tech to silence free speech rights. The American public should be outraged. It is our fundamental right to speak our minds, to create a political debate, to be able to oppose the incumbent government. That is the purpose of the First Amendment. Amen. And we've got the FBI, the DOJ, DHS, the State Department, DOD, HHS, all of these agencies actively suppressing political speech they disagree with. The American public should rise up and say, enough, Amen. No more, throw the bastards out.
All right, Dan Schneider, I love it. You're
right on.
Vice President of the Media Research Center, MRC, Free Speech America. A pleasure to have you on, and I have a feeling you're going to be on John Anthony's show, Black and Right Radio.
You will.
So thank you so much, Dan. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks, John.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Are you turning 65 and thinking about Medicare? Or are you over 65 and haven't enrolled yet because you still have coverage at work? Either way, Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Imagine having nationwide access with an annual deductible of only $226.